Police review case after parents claim accident was murder.
My name is Paul Merrick, and I believe my son was murdered, and I believe the people that murdered my son are very close, and I believe people around the Birmingham area and Sutton Coldfield and Tamworth know exactly who has murdered our son. Rest assured, there will be no hiding place for the evil people that have murdered our son.
We suspect a cover-up because we believe the people involved with assaulting John had close connections to Staffordshire police. We will say who is at fault: the perpetrators and the police and the coroner. BTP officers had not photographed the body or retained his clothing. Why? I think Paul and Julie might have something to say about the whys. Good afternoon, good evening everybody, and welcome back to the channel Break the Ice, the channel that strives for truth and justice. So, before we get into it, I have been away for a while. I've been taking a bit of me time, and yeah, I've just had a little bit of time away, sis. But it's good to be back, it's good to be back, hello, hello. Right, Oasis references, that's enough. Got them out of the way. So yeah, it is good to be back. I've just been taking a bit of, like I said, a bit of me time and a little holiday, and you know, it's just good to have a chill. But I said I'll be back, and I'll be back with a bang. There is a lot going on behind the scenes, but that is under the radar for the time being. But what we are going to talk about today is a old but new case, which we're going to get really stuck into, because this is a fascinating one. This is an eye-opening one, and it's a very suspicious one in the eyes of the parents of the person we're going to be talking about. Let's get straight into this video. This video is the suspicious death of John Merrick. Windows on. Bang. Right. So recently, a case was brought to my attention. And that is the case of the death of John Merrick and the very suspicious circumstances that surround it in the eyes of the parents. John was a 32-year-old business owner from Coldfield, which is just near Birmingham. In 2013, John died, and the police said that John had struck a bridge in his car and he'd either fallen or jumped 30 feet down onto some railway tracks, where he was eventually hit by a train. That's the official police narrative, but his parents think otherwise. And this is the introduction video into the deep dive that we're going to go on with this. If you Google John Merrick railway death, you will see a list of articles on Google. There's loads of them. I wasn't really aware of this case, but now obviously I've looked into it because it's come to my attention, and there's loads on it. So if you do want to if you want to look into it before we go on this journey, I'd advise that. I'm going to give you an overview now of why the parents think that this is very, very suspicious. So myself and John's parents have been in contact over the past few weeks, and very soon we will be meeting up and I'll be interviewing them all about John's death. And in their eyes, the very suspicious circumstances that surround it. Now, they have informed me that this is a deep, deep rabbit hole of lies, cover-ups, and corruption. So, where better to come and share your story than on Break the Ice? So as people know who are regulars on this channel does strive for truth and justice, and I'm more than happy to deep dive this case and dive right into that dark rabbit hole. And to give John's parents, Julie and Paul, a platform to tell their story, and for them to share with us how they actually don't think that John's death was an accident at all, but instead murder. They believe that their son was murdered, And for whatever reason, there has been a cover-up. And 12 years later, they are still fighting to get the truth out there, to get some justice, and to blow the lid on what this cover-up is, why there's a cover-up in their eyes. First thing that I thought when I spoke to them was, well, why? And then they were about to tell me, and I was like, whoa, stop. Let's wait till I interview you. John's dad is very keen to get a lot off his chest. He's very keen to say as much. He actually said to me, Luke, I've got a lot that I want to say. And I said, well, good, because you can say it. You can say whatever you want. This channel has dived into a lot of cases. Nicola Bulley, Madeleine McCann, Julia, who said she believes that she could be Madeleine McCann. The Malls murders, especially with my recent videos on a location which could lead to the deposition site of a victim. I also have John Wedger on as well, former Scotland Yard detective of 28 years, who I'm quite lucky to have John as a guest on this channel because he will talk about certain events, whether it's the Southport stabbings or the Liverpool car that crashed into the parade, CA cover-ups within the Met, and he will say things that a lot of people would be scared to say. So this channel does like to get to the truth of things. It does like to dive deep into suspicious cases. Nicola Bulley being the biggest one that I've covered on this channel in terms of suspicious circumstances and things that just don't make sense. So this case has got my interest. And the fact that the parents are fighting for justice and are trying to get to the bottom of it and are striving for the truth 12 years later says a lot. And I'm very intrigued to hear what they've got to say. So why did he think that it was murder and not an accident? Now, I'm yet to fully know. I know tiny bits, but I don't want to know too much yet because I want the interview to be natural and organic and my responses to be the same, natural and organic, and then we can kind of go with the flow. So I don't want to know too much yet, although I am intrigued, but let's wait for when I interview them. They're going to be coming up to Manchester quite soon to do that. The upcoming interview is sure to be a sad, but yet very eye-opening and a fascinating one. Come and join me as we take a close, hard look at all the ins and outs of this case. Expect the unexpected and prepare to be truly shocked. So I'm going to be looking at an article now, and it's from birminghammail.co.uk. It is titled, John Merrick Death, Police Review Case After Parents Claim Accident Was Murder. So this article is from 2017. Police have launched a review into the death of a businessman found dead on a railway line more than 3 years ago. Tyre business owner John Merrick was found at Willow Bottom Lane in Wigginbottom near Tamworth in September 2013. The original police inquiry ruled that the dad, 32, died as a result of a tragic accident. But parents Paul and Julie Merrick, who I've been speaking to, have been conducting their own investigations. Bear in mind, this is 2017 and they're still doing this in 2025. So they obviously believe something quite strongly. They've been conducting their own investigations into his death after claiming their son was a victim of murder. It says here, last year, but this is from 2017, Paul and Julie used the news pages of the Birmingham Mail to offer up a £100,000 reward for help in catching his killers. They truly, truly believe this, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting 100 grand up. So yeah, very, very, very intrigued to do this interview. Now detectives from British Transport Police admit they are reviewing several aspects of the case after the Merricks handed over a report that cast serious doubts on the findings on the original post-mortem. In 2013, police said John, who had a baby son, had struck the bridge in his car and fallen or jumped 30 foot onto the tracks below. where he was then struck by a train. A post-mortem examination concluded that John suffered multiple fatal injuries in keeping with a train accident. And in June 2014, a 4-hour Staffordshire inquest ruled that the young businessman suffered multiple fatal injuries and died as a result of an accident. But the death certificate makes no mention of a train. It looks like we're going to be covering another dodgy one here, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's an old case, but what the parents are doing right now is right now in 2025, and I'll be interviewing them in August 2025. They have got a lot to say here, and they will not give up on this. Fair play to them. If they truly believe this and they've got their reasoning, you've got to get justice for your son, of course. And this channel is more than happy to cover it, to interview Paul and Julie, and let's see if something can maybe come of it. But the main thing is here, at this moment, is to give Paul and Julie as much time as they need to say what they want. They might have had 10 minutes with a newspaper or 5 minutes with the local news, whatever. They can have 2-3 hours if they want to say everything that they need to try and get closer to the truth, because they clearly believe the truth isn't known yet. Police are focusing on an independent review of the original post-mortem, which says Mr. Merrick's injuries were not consistent with either a fall from height or being struck by a train. So we've got conflicting stuff going on already here. The Birmingham Mail understands the force is in the process of instructing its own independent pathologist to review the post-mortem report. They have also arranged a meeting with Dr. Ian Calder, the Home Office forensics pathologist who wrote the report on the original post-mortem and previously worked on the case of the body in the bag. GCHQ officer Gareth Williams. Peter Forden did the spy in the bag, didn't he? The same one. The Mail has seen the original post-mortem report, which details a number of incised wounds of John's body, including a deep 13cm wound to his right upper arm. There were also a number of similar cuts to his lower right forearm and his hand, which went down to the bone. All 3 of his right upper and lower arm bones were broken, along with some of his fingers and bones in his right hand. Dr. Calder concluded in his review that the injuries to the arm were caused by a sharp instrument and were defensive in nature. Yep, we're going down a rabbit hole, guys. The post-mortem found further incised wounds to his head, back and between his ribs. But the original post-mortem found no evidence of leg fractures consistent with a fall, or any evidence of significant multiple injuries consistent with being hit by a train. Fair play to the parents here, you know. Like, fair play to them, because there was an original narrative, which I read out at the beginning. They have then done their work. They've already found inconsistencies in the official narrative and that the injuries are not consistent with what you'd expect with being hit by a train. What stands out to me is injuries to the arm caused by a sharp instrument. They were defensive in nature. A further confounding factor of the injuries, which do not relate to being caused by a fall from considerable height. In the overall consideration of such a possible scenario, there would be point impact injuries with the body remaining at this point and not bouncing to change position. Hence, it is difficult to reconcile the causation of the injuries to the back being caused by the ballist. That was a mouthful. Dr. Calder also questioned the origin of grease or oil on John's body and said it was unfortunate that BTP officers had not photographed the body or retained his clothing. Very, very, very important. And again, the question is, why? I think Paul and Julie might have something to say about the whys with that. Julie says she is convinced that her son was a victim of a savage beating elsewhere before he was dragged onto the tracks. Paul said, "We are convinced that he was the victim of a carefully executed murder." I'll say that again. Paul, who is John's dad, said, speaking for him and Julie, "We are convinced that he was the victim of a carefully executed murder. We will never rest, ever, until we get justice." And I hope you do. I really hope you do, and I really can't wait to meet you and go through the ins and outs of this. I'm very intrigued. We have had some response to the £100,000 reward and would like to say that the reward remains in place for anyone that provides information that leads to a conviction. So, if anyone does know, after you've seen the big interview and all that, if anyone does know anything, there's £100,000 reward here. A spokeswoman for British Transport Police said, "We continue to review several aspects of the case which the Merrick family have raised with us. However, at this stage, we are not aware of any new evidence which would indicate the death is anything other than a tragic accident. If there is any new evidence surrounding Mr. Merrick's death, we would ask for it to be handed to police so it can be assessed." So there we go. I asked Paul and Julie, John's parents, a series of simple questions, only about 4 or 5, so I can get a brief understanding of the case and of their concerns. The questions are as follows. Why do you want to come on the channel, and what do you wish to talk about? What's the official narrative of what happened? What do you think actually happened? Why do you suspect a cover-up? What do you want from this, and who do you think is at fault? And the answers to those are as follows. Dear Luke, we would like to come on the channel to talk about the suspicious death of our son, John Paul Merrick. In the official narrative, John crashed his car into a bridge, got out and jumped over the bridge onto the railway line below. We believe John was assaulted elsewhere and his car was driven into the bridge by someone else. We believe at this moment in time, John had already been assaulted and dragged down onto the track and left to die. They truly believe something very, very suspicious and corrupt has gone on here. They believe he was assaulted and dragged down onto that track and left to die. Now, if this is true, justice is needed. We suspect a cover-up because we believe the people involved with assaulting John had close connections to Staffordshire Police and the Crime Commissioner for Stafford. Very, very, very intriguing what that's all about and why they believe this. This channel will soon find out why they believe this. We want justice. We will say who is at fault. The perpetrators and the police and the coroner. So there you go. That is your overview of the suspicious death of John Merrick, and it's an introduction into a case that we are going to really deep dive. So I wanted to make this video first so you get an understanding of everything. You can do some Googling yourself, look into the official narrative. You can look at some articles that Paul and Julie have done already in preparation for when I do that long, in-depth, uncensored interview. Keep an eye out on this channel for when that interview does come out, because it is sure to be fascinating, shocking, dark, and full of corruption, according to Paul and Julie. Leave your comments down below. Have you heard of this case before? Go and have your Google if you want. Go and do some research. Come back and leave your comments. What do you think? And don't forget to share this video about. Paul and Julie believe that their son was murdered, but the official narrative says an accident. And they strongly, strongly believe that there is some kind of cover-up going on. And they deserve the truth. So keep your eyes out for that interview, which will be coming out quite soon. Have a great day. And as always, Peace out.